Good afternoon, everybody. I am Todd Obert, President and CEO of Productive Corporation. Joined alongside me here with his cap and bow tie and lab coat is Pete Greco, VP of Sales and Technology. Today, we are going to talk about Zcrypt, the rise of CryptoWorm ransomware. We're going to talk about this the same way we talk about everything in our knowledge series, full of relevance and short on fluff. To that end, here is our agenda. We will meet Productive in 1 minute. Then we'll turn the microphone over to Pete Greco, who will talk about how Zcrypt is different. And he will then kind of outline 6 ways to protect your network. And this is just his best practice stuff that I think you'll find very interesting. And then we will have some other thoughts about ransomware, what's going on, where it may be heading. If you have come to our events in the past, you know what the drill is. Utilize the chat feature and we'll get your questions answered straight away. But for now, buckle up and giddy up because let's meet Productive in 1 minute. So, who is Productive Corporation, you say? Well, I'm so glad you took the time to ask because Productive Corporation provides security and storage software and services for mid-sized companies. We have a dedicated staff that can help with pre-sales, engineering, licensing, technical help, and licensing questions so you don't have to navigate out in the scary world all on your own. We also can implement, test, and optimize all the things that we sell. In addition, we do security assessments, vulnerability assessments, penetration tests, and other kind of proactive security services. We can help config and optimize that gateway. We can do an endpoint health check. We also produce a lot of content for the mid-market, like this knowledge series today. You can find all of that in recorded fashion at productivecorp.com/content, as well as our YouTube channel. The bottom line, we have the resources to help you, whether that's implementation, assessment, licensing, or optimization services. We have it all to help you. Help at productivecorp.com. And one of the ways that we help is by putting on these different knowledge series. Today, Pete Greco, who at the top of the hour was our VP in Sales and Technology, and right now turns out still is. He is going to be talking about the Zcrypt threat. Now, Pete has been in the security business for almost 20 years, and he has worked with thousands of customers on security. He has done and seen the good, the bad, and the ugly of IT security. So with that, let's give him a warm Clint Eastwood welcome to Mr. Pete Greco.
All right. Thanks so much. Thanks everybody for hopping on with us. Let me get a little control here, Todd, so I can keep this bad boy rolling forward. We've got quite a few things to share with you. We're gonna try and get everybody out of here though before the bottom of the hour. So, how is Zcrypt different from the other ransomwares? This is the first one that we've seen that's introduced the worm-like behavior, right? So the ability to replicate itself. It's also the first one that we've seen that actually raises the fee to you if you don't respond quick enough. It starts off at about $250, and after 4 days or so, they bump it up to, and I think that's one Bitcoin. They bump it up to 5 Bitcoins, which is over $2,000. Obviously, those rates fluctuate, but they're really looking for ways to get people to respond quicker, because the less time you have to think about it, obviously, the more likely you might be to spend the money to get your data decrypted. And this is hitting so many versions. We kind of put Windows threat on here, which maybe makes it seem like it's the first threat for Windows, but really our intention is that this is impacting many versions of Windows, 32 and 64-bit, XP up to 2010. We've seen some different reports saying that some of the versions of Zcrypt maybe are not going back pre-07. We've seen other reports that they are. So trying to decipher how many variants we have. And one of the things that we're definitely seeing with the ransomwares is continued development and improvement. You know, these folks are making a lot of money in some cases, and they're putting some of that money back into the program. Should you pay? Nope. One of my favorite things that I think Chuck has done on a slide for us, right? True. The first
Why
time
not
I saw
pay,
it, like,
Pete?
that is sweet.
It seems so easy.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, you know, and if you look around on the internet, you'll see tons and tons of security professionals pleading with people to not pay because that keeps it going and keeps fueling this. And I think part of the challenge that folks run into is if you're a design firm or you know, some kind of production company or whatever, and this hits you, you might be losing, you know, thousands or tens of thousands of dollars of billables, and in the face of it, paying the, you know, the couple $100 to get your data back might be the quickest and the easiest thing you can do, but it fuels these guys to continue to improve their product and continue to attack. So I think for some folks it's easier said than done. We're going to tell you some stuff that's going to help you avoid this and give you some ideas on what to do if you do get cracked. So you know, we have not talked a lot about worms lately in security. So I thought it might not be a bad idea to just throw up a quick conversation since we're using the term, and definitely if you've been to our other CryptoWare deals, you haven't heard us talking about this, and if you come and look at any of our kind of AV or endpoint security related presentations, you're not hearing a lot about worms. This is kind of a blast from the past, if you will. But basically, just like any kind of malware, right, this is exploiting vulnerability in the OS. What a worm is actually doing is replicating itself across the network, right, or can be a dirt-eating insect that can enhance phishing and phishing as we threw it down. And that's how the worm is actually taking action, or this specific worm is taking action, is through phishing or spear phishing attempts. But that's really the nature of the opening of the program, is that it's replicating itself. That is more opportunity to impact more machines and more end users, and that's what makes this a particularly tricky one. So, you know, as we already talked about, how this thing works is it's typically starting off with a spear phishing campaign for the initial infection. Right, that dirty link then is going to allow you to go someplace, or allow your end user to go someplace where they're actually going to download some command and control code. Simultaneously to this happening, the worm itself is looking for removable drives to replicate itself to, and it's setting up an auto run file, and it's hiding its key attributes so that they're not visible to the end user. Now, some of these things can be identified through security scans, might be identified through some of the other security programs you're running beyond the endpoint, right? But the end user is definitely not going to see it. And what makes it especially tricky is you're not going to be able to just visually inspect a thumb drive to make sure that it's clean before it gets plugged into the next machine and reinfects it. You're going to have to show hidden files or do a deep scan and make sure that you're scanning for hidden files, or that whatever program you're using will scan hidden files to make sure that you're nailing this thing before you're spreading it throughout the company, or sending it home with somebody, or having somebody who got this at home bringing in that removable drive and infecting the infecting the network. Right?
Pete,
so, yeah.
Is that thing just sitting dormant on a system waiting for a thumb drive then to be plugged in?
No, it's executing on the machine that gets it, right?
Okay.
And then it's also simultaneously looking for removable drives to infect. So it's taking action. It's not waiting around, Todd. So it's doing both of these things simultaneously. It's modifying the registry so that it starts up at reboot. That way, if you do have some kind of memory scanner that's cleaning it out, hopefully they're going to get you on the next boot or keep getting you or looking for that opportunity upon reboot to get you when your protection is down, right? The removable drives are now moving it from machine to machine, and I'm predicting that we're going to see some enhancements there that's going to start scaling across the LAN, right? Then it's creating a shortcut. This is, I can't even believe how brazen these, actually what I can't figure out is, are they brazen, or is this an area where they're just simply missing the opportunity to continue to hide the infection? They're actually putting a startup shortcut in the Windows startup menu to help facilitate startup on boot. So I haven't seen anything like that happening for a long time. It seems like a pretty basic thing, but they're obviously getting it to work. Once they make go ahead.
So would this use like a like say my Apple device gets plugged in? Is it going to try to get buried in there, or is that, since it's a different OS, it can't get in there? And I hate to say Apple's safe because I'm.
Yeah, you're not safe with an iPhone, if that or an iPod Touch. It would be able to replicate itself to that once you connected it and that maps a drive. It's going to be able to copy to that iOS or Android device and spread that way.
Oh, okay. Because a lot of people use their computers and systems, like I am, to charge their phone, right? So I'm just becoming really a big external hard drive.
Yeah, and so that's where device control, Todd, comes in, and you start locking down USB ports. You're enabling the power. What some folks say they do is they go into the BIOS and disable those, and now you're removing the power to those as well, and a lot of people want to at least be able to charge their phone from their machine, even though they're not going to sync their phone at the office or whatever. So if you have device control on, you can prevent that spread bidirectionally, right, but still allow that power to happen. So one thing to think about there. Once the CNC server is made contact with, then it's going to download itself, download the encryption piece, which is 256 AES. So, right, not going to be breakable by anybody who's not a nation state. And I see, I'm on a lot of security groups on LinkedIn, and I participate in a lot of other security discussions across the internet. And one of the things that I frequently see is, who can help me decrypt files? There is no medicine once this part happens. So prevention is the only medicine, right, or recovery. But once that file is encrypted, you're not going to find any place that's decrypting it. I have seen a couple of very shady sites that are promising decryption methods for these kinds of things. They also include different kinds of hacks for phones that are like iCloud locked and this kind of stuff. And what the deal is you pay them $19 or $25 or whatever, and then you get nothing in return. It's a pretty good business model for them, right? So that's what's going on there. The file types that it's targeting, and I'm expecting to see a few more come into play here. Chuck put the ones in red that are really going to be the most common ones for end users to be having an issue with, right? Word docs. You see, we've got Excel spreadsheets, PDFs, obviously, PowerPoints in here, PSTs. So if you're backing up emails to the local machine, that's a target. If you're developing code, right, your whole work effort or development effort can be put at risk. If you're using Microsoft Backup, right, it can encrypt those backups. That's really going to put you up against the wall. How do you get rid of this thing, right? So just because you've been encrypted, it doesn't mean that there's nothing else to do, right? You still need to clean this off, or maybe you're actually doing a pretty good job at your gateway and you're blocking the CNC code so the encryption can't get delivered to the endpoint, and that's definitely something we want to see. We still got to be diligent at getting rid of this. Just because we're blocking the CNC communication at the gateway as soon as the laptop leaves and goes home or goes to the airport or the coffee shop or whatever, they're going to hit that CNC server and they're going to get the infection. So we got to make sure that we get rid of all instances. And there's a ton of stuff on the internet to help you figure out what all the file types are, and that's something we can help you out with as well. You got to get rid of all the files. Your endpoint product may clean them. Now, once you do that, you got to get in and clean the registry and get rid of the auto startup registry entries that are in there. And there's a lot of information on that, but that's more of a manual task that you got to do. And then the hardest part is you got to really be able to identify every thumb drive that's been plugged in or who's had a thumb drive plugged into an infected machine and make sure that that drive gets destroyed or cleaned. Right? Yeah.
Hey, so can that worm access to get to a smartphone via wireless network connection?
I don't think so, because it's actually looking for the code. If you look at the code, Todd, it's specifically calling out removable drives. And so if it doesn't get mapped as a drive letter, it's not going to make the hop. Now, could that be a great idea to recommend to them so they can start doing that in the future? Absolutely. And that might be something that the threat actors are looking to do.
Quick disclaimer, this is not R&D for hackers. This is intended for the knowledge of our audience.
Exactly, but make no mistake, right? These guys are trying to figure out how to get to the next level. The smarter that we all get at defeating them and defending against them, they're trying to take their game to the next level, and that's where there is no done with security, right? And that's where I know a lot of our customers really are just pulling their hair out and trying to figure out how do I stay on top of this? What do I do next? It feels like my work is never done. And it's not. With self-defense, that you're always going to the next level. You're always trying to outsmart them as they're always trying to outsmart us. And that's definitely an area where we can come into play and work together to develop a strategy to keep you moving forward. And part of our philosophy is don't think about getting to 100%. Let's figure out how do we get all of our areas to 70% or 80%. Part of what we want to do is be hard enough to hack that they're just going to go elsewhere, and make sure we're paying attention to all of our critical areas.
All right. Hey, couple questions along how this thing spreads that are coming in. One, can the worm be sent over network systems with the network and file sharing and that have removable drives, which I believe is yes. And then another is, if we pull the drive and slave it to another machine, aka to recover non-encrypted files, will the virus be active?
So, if it's made it onto that drive and you move it over to another machine, it's possible that it could start up and start running. So before you did that, what you'd want to do is just scan the key areas, looking for the infection. And one of the tools that you could use would be like a Malwarebytes or a Hitman Pro. Those are things we can help you get. They can help you identify that. Your endpoint product may help you identify that. You can visually inspect, and that's where, again, we can get you on with one of our consultants to help you look in the right areas to see if it's there before you do anything. We can get that stuff deleted, and then it's for sure going to be safe to plug that drive in. But that's what makes it particularly heinous is you just need to be visually inspecting every area, and that's where a good incident response plan comes into place. It's not just let's unplug everything and reboot and see if we're safe. The understanding what all has been touched, and when it comes to removable disks, a SIM can help you out. Something like a Nessus scan can help you out, but you really need to have a clear understanding, which the easiest way to get it, probably the most time consuming, but the easiest way to get it is by checking out the logs and see what's been plugged into this thing. If you've got a good device control product and you're monitoring ports, you might be able to get that information out of your endpoint security product, but you need to look and see what has been touched, what has been impacted, and where has this thing gone, so that you know where to go to get it cleaned. It's a lot of work. Yeah.
Yep. So got that. So then we also mentioned, right, this thing can go to iOS or Android. What about at the system OS level? Does this will this go on to an OS X, Apple machine or Linux or some other type of system OS?
I don't know if it could copy itself to Linux. I'm not sure of a situation where an OS X machine would show up as a map drive. It's possible that the file could hide on there, but right now the code will not run on Apple or run on Linux. Doesn't mean that it won't in the future. So if you did get it on a Mac, the files on that Mac are probably not going to be able to get encrypted with today's code. But could a Mac be helping transmit and transport the worm? That's probably a possibility. Probably more likely how it would happen is somebody pulls an infected thumb drive out of a PC and plugs it into a Mac. And we do that here. We might transfer large files with a removable drive between the Windows environment and the Macs. And then, that gets on that Mac and then replicates itself. I haven't done any testing with that. We haven't done any testing with that. So that's more theoretical. And I haven't seen any references, which doesn't mean they don't exist, that has happened. So a little hard to say, but my guess is Macs are in their future because there's a lot of ransom payers on the Macs, because typically that's where you see folks who are working on like the big video files and audio files and that kind of stuff, and they might be more prone to paying. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's on their development docket.
So last kind of OS-related question, right? So this thing can't move via a UNC path, or can it?
Not yet.
Okay.
But I don't think they're far away from figuring that out.
Yep.
Or what I should say, Todd, is we haven't seen it yet. That
they could be doing it, right? Or they're not getting detected. Right, yep.
Yeah, these guys are moving so quick on the ransomware development. Last year, well over $100 million with just CryptoLocker and CryptoWall. Right, so these are well-funded organizations. They do testing, they do quality control. They're buying all the products that we all are using and have available, so they can test this stuff and figure out how to continue to be undetected. Right, and anybody who's been on any of our webinars before has heard me say countless times, part of it is we have to get lucky 100% of the time. They only have to get lucky once. So they're looking for those angles where they can get lucky, get a foothold, and get some ransom payers.
Absolutely. Yep. No, that's good. Yeah. No, it's come fast and furious, and shows no signs of abating.
No, not at all. So let's keep this moving unless we have more questions. Right. Final thing, really, like I said already, make sure we identify every removable disk that's been plugged in. Let's make sure we get that thing clean. One of the best ways to stop the payload, right, is at the gateway, and going beyond firewall to a next-gen firewall or a UTM, right, to shut down that command and control communications. Now, that's not necessarily going to clean up the threat, and it's not necessarily going to prevent the threat from getting in, but it's going to stop the encryption payload. So we definitely want to be paying attention to that. The other thing that you really need to think about is, do you have a method now for your users to report to you phishing schemes so that you can continue to evaluate how are these things getting past my anti-spam so you can make improvements there? Definitely something you want to think about. And then moving forward, the next thing that we need to start really worrying about, and not necessarily with just Zcrypt or Zcrypt specifically, but the migration of ransomware into our cloud products. And we're talking to tons and tons of folks who are going to Office 365, some folks who are going Google Apps, but this is becoming commonplace. A lot of end users taking advantage of OneDrive or Google Drive or Box or Dropbox or all the others that are out there. And these programs are going to start figuring out ways to get into that account where they can get your key documents, right? And make sure that your documents aren't hidden from them in the cloud. So that's the next area where we want to make sure that we're really taking the next step. Just moving our info to Office 365, right, helps protect against downtime, helps keep us available, but doesn't necessarily increase your security posture. And that's a conversation we'd love to have with anybody who's interested in having that conversation. Right, so some other things you can do to help prevent the spread of Zcrypt specifically, disable auto run. Right, that's a big part of how it's operating and spreading, is being able to run the program, run the executable itself to initiate that command and control setting. So also auditing employee permissions and just keeping the network tight. And yeah, I'm the last one to point any fingers, because we've seen tons of times where we've got too many permissions open, or we've got people who should no longer have access to certain certain file shares and this kind of stuff, who still have access, or way too many directory groups or old end users and this kind of stuff. And so staying on top of that really raises the game for sure. And something like an audit or assessment can help you get on top of that kind of stuff, especially if you just simply don't have the time. And last but not least, on the security front, end user education, and it's a little bit of work to get those folks. Security training for the end users is something that we can definitely help you with. Testing those folks, figuring out what are they falling for, what do they understand, right? What's your end user community like? Do you have a bunch of folks that really they can't tell the difference between a legit email and a bad email? What's their posture? Because they are your exposure point for a lot of these things, right? If you're talking about someone who they're determined to gain entry into your environment, they're throwing exploit after exploit at your firewall, they're trying to crack your wireless, they're going to hack you, right? They're going to be looking for some other mechanisms. But the bulk of folks that are trying to attack are going through the end users, and it's happening through phishing and spear attempts. Can be happening through social engineering. It's also happening through stolen devices. That's where encrypting those machines that leave the environment is a good idea, because when you steal that laptop that has the password taped to the bottom, pretty easy to gain access to the environment via the VPN. So password policies, two-factor authentication, and employee education of what to do and what not to do can go a long way. The challenge there, though, is it's not, I just did it this once and now we're good for the rest of our lives. You're going to have people come and go. Those new employees need that education, and the existing employees need to be retested and re-educated to make sure that it's sticking with them and that they're staying on top of their game. So
Pete?
Yes.
So I take a piece of black tape underneath my laptop and I tape over the password.
Oh, Todd, that's a good one right there. Yeah, I think that's what we should all be doing here, folks. just hide that thing, but you got a white box. That's the problem. You got the black tape on the white box. It really sticks out.
Who'd look under the tape?
Exactly. Yeah, I actually have a little flap on the bottom of my laptop that hides the service tag. That's where I would write mine. Yeah. So staying on top of that for sure. The next thing that we really need to be doing, right, is getting backups of that critical data, so that if you do get hit, you can recover the data. And there's a lot of different ways to do it on workstations and laptops, and obviously we'd love to strategize with you on that. Syncing that stuff to a server and making sure that server is backed up, and then getting that data offsite on a regular basis. And that could be to tape, it could be to the cloud, it could be onto some kind of removable disk format. However you're doing it, getting it out so that you've got a steady copy, so that you can get that data back and avoid paying that ransom is absolutely key and critical. So, thanks so much, everybody, for coming. Appreciate it. Would love to talk more with everybody individually about what's going on with their threat environment. See if we can help you get it to the next level.
Yeah, that is fantastic. Take several breaths of air, Pete. Yeah, there you go. You cranked out a lot of information in a short amount of time. There is, just constantly stuff is changing the way these threats propagate and, expose all the environments. You got to, stay on top of it. And one way to do that is by keeping in touch with us. We can help you out. To that end, your account exec is going to reach out and chat with you if you want to talk more about this solution or solutions to help prevent or put up barriers to getting hacked and getting in the position where you have to pay ransom. There's a lot of stuff you can do systematically and solution-wise. But for now, I say thank you to each and every one of you. Half hour is a fair amount of time to spend in your day. You spend it with us, so I appreciate that. And Mr. Pete Greco, thank you very much for a wonderful presentation. We are going to, close it out here and, wish you a fantastic balance of your day and week, and we will talk soon. Thanks, everybody.